Right, everyone, we're now live on YouTube, and so I'd like to welcome everyone to the Culture Center this afternoon. My name is Eric Weir. I'm the city manager for the city, and it's my pleasure to have everyone here in person here at this meeting, as well as anybody that might be watching this video after the fact. This is a pretty important conversation that we're going to have. It's one that goes right along with some of the other meetings we held today in regards to the park and the transformation that we're talking about, not only in the park, but along Front Street and then the adjacent areas. It's really a conversation that's about partnership. It's a conversation that's about opportunity, and it's a conversation about how do we maximize the assets that we have while looking forward to the future and the opportunities that we have in the future to really make this that destination area that we know it all can be and we know it should be. I'm joined today by our landscape architect team, that is Greenworks, Environment Greenworks Consulting. So we have Paul Dress and we have Ryan Kabatla, who is the lead designer on this. And so first I'll turn it over to Mike and Paul. We also have our partners on this particular project with the state national parks. We have the Redwood Parks Conservancy, and we also have Cindy Vosberg, the executive director for the Chamber of Commerce. Because what we're going to be talking about today is the Culture Center, and how do we maximize this? How do we use our partnerships to the fullest extent possible, and really maximize these opportunities? So with that, I will turn it over to Paul and Mike.
Thank you, Eric. It's wonderful to be here today. Nice to see everyone. I'd like to introduce my colleague who leads us through this, Ben Johnson, part of our team, and joining us virtually is Stuart Thompson from FFA Architecture and Interiors. We are excited to be part of the team for this project, started last summer. Mike's going to walk us through where we've gotten to date, and we're looking forward to the question and answer.
Great, thanks, Paul. It is a big day, like Eric said. There's been a lot of your participation, the community's participation over the last several months, talking about this building and the potential for the building, how it's served over time, and how it could serve into the future. And we're going to be talking about some big ideas related to that. We can go to the first slide, Eric.
Let me bring that up.
Great, and then go on to the next slide. I think one of the things as a design team, we are always looking for what's the inspiration, and wanted to kind of capture some things that I'll just show you some imagery that help us understand or give us maybe some clues about what could happen with the cultural center over time. So we'll talk a little bit about Elk Creek, Castle Rock, the Redwood Forest, Beach Grass Dunes, and the Tolowa people, and their history and their current presence in the region. So if we go to the next slide. So I don't know if you've ever made this connection. I'm not saying that the architect was inspired by Castle Rock when they designed this building, but isn't it a little remarkable? Yeah, the building serving a kind of a rock. Maybe there was something there. So anyway, that gives it just a little hint, and we can go on to the next one. Elk Creek is incredibly important. Unfortunately, this building kind of turns its back on the creek and kind of jams up against the creek. And unless you're doing the California Coastal Trail, you might not even know that it's there. So we're looking at Elk Creek as a major opportunity. All right. For the entire park, we have been looking at, well, what's the landscape telling you about this place? And what this landscape tells us, and the people who live here, is wind, water, and waves. And the dunes, the town, show us this landscape element with the forest in the background that we have been just absolutely intrigued by. And so we're thinking about how do those landscape elements might actually be reflected in the park and in the surroundings around the cultural center, okay? And of course, the forest. When we look at the site as it is now, all 35 acres of beachfront park, it seems very flat and, in some places monotonous. And we know that this landscape has a verticality to it, that the only element in the park that has that verticality is this building. As a matter of fact, look up. This whole building is designed with a big atrium vertical space. So how could that be a clue to what happens to this building over time? And we've been honored by the Talawa people who have spent time showing us this land, this special places, their special works of art. I spent all day down in Arcata and at the Sunek village yesterday, the Iraq village, to get a better understanding of how Native people have used and are using this land, and that is also part of our inspiration. Okay, so I'm going to now take a moment and give you a little bit of an orientation to the overall general development plan. And Eric is working overtime with here as the AV tech, and so we want to show some key images from the plan. 35 acres. I'm not going to go through all of the pieces. Some of you have been here this morning to talk about the bike park. Others of you were here right before lunch and we talked about the play area. We've got sports fields. We have a 1 mile exercise loop. We have a new amphitheater and a new waterfront plaza right on the water. And a key part of that is our recognition that where Elk Creek meets the bay is a fantastic opportunity for experience. It could be a place that houses large gatherings, but it can also be a place to just sit on a berm and look out at the water. So this is a really fantastic place. Here's the visitor center. So now if we could go to the next slide, Eric. When we came and started working on the park and we looked at the entire park, there was one element that we couldn't quite figure out, and it was this building. What's its role? What does it do? And frankly, the fact that we're here today is because a lot of people asked some good questions that prompted us to say, how could we look at this entire park without having exploration of what this building is and what it could be? And so that's what we're here to talk about today. But the park itself, the 35 acres that ends roughly about here, is not enough. We're wondering, how do you get people off of 101, right? One of the key elements that you mentioned in our community engagement interviews and meetings is people are interested in what can we do to promote the local economy. And part of that is you've got this incredible world-class resource right on the water, but you got a highway that goes right by it. How do we get people off of the highway, make a turn, come in, get intrigued, fall in love, have a dinner, and decide, oh, we want to stay here? So we said to Eric, is it okay if we even think about the S-curves area itself? You've got Elk Creek that runs through underneath a pipe, and then it exits over here, and it's so beautiful. Could you think about daylighting Elk Creek through the S-curve, still keeping I'm not removing roadways, but could you make that a landscape feature that gets people's attention? And then these are berms. How could you create the sort of coastal dune elements that as you enter the city, you recognize you're coming into someplace different? And then what could you put, like gateway signs and arches or things that would actually, as you're coming northbound, would get your attention? You say, I gotta go, what is down there? Something's happening, I gotta get there. So that's this sort of arch. And if you're coming southbound, how do I get people's attention, maybe with another arch here that causes them to make a right turn and then come to discover this building? So the other piece, there's so many amazing complementary activities that are going on, is the discussion of this site as the new transit hub, right? So that's right across the street from the visitor center. And thank you, Eric. This idea that this now can become a sending place, that people could gather here, think of this place as a hub, and then one of the main spokes might be the transit center, where you want to go see the redwoods, like a person at, what time was it this morning? 5 minutes to 9 shows up and says, hey, I want to go see the redwoods. Where do I go? They came right into the meeting because they didn't know where they were supposed to go. Well, what if you could tell people, well, just go right across the street right here. In 20 minutes, there'll be a bus that will take you all the way there and bring you all the way back. That new transit center is in the works right here. So it really starts to help us think through, how could this building serve that key role as the major hub for the park? Yes. For the community and the businesses, yes, but for the whole county and the whole region as well. Okay, so that's the overview. And now let me talk a little bit about, this is the visitor center. This is parking that's not there now, right? So we're thinking about the coming improvements to Front Street. How could we get parking right in front of the building? And this is the footprint of the existing building. That dash line is, if you look outside, is the outline of this, the concrete wall that's in the back there that is holding up the stairs. And it's also allowing this drive-through right here.
The drive-through might be right here then. So
yes. Yeah, good. Thank you, Eric. That's the orientation. Well, I'll show you a picture in a second about what this looks like, what it currently looks like from the street. But just as I mentioned this morning at 5 minutes to 9, somebody came in because they weren't sure where they were supposed to go. It's very, very hard to orient yourself. Not only that, as you'll see, you can't hardly even see that there's a building here from the street because of the mounds, because of the vegetation. And so one of the things that we're talking about today is an idea of taking that drive-through, converting it into usable space, because it's already got all the structure and all the elements to it, but then opening up right to the street with a big plaza, a plaza at the ground level, pulling off the front, the steps that are there, and making you come right in to this amazing space. Come in, it's a little bit tight, and then we have this amazing volume of space, interior space. We've drawn a basket pattern. So using a Tolowa culture as an idea for making that a really special kind of plaza that welcomes you, so that as you drive through, you say, oh, I've got to go check that out. There are some other pieces that are happening as well. Part of that blue dotted line that you see here in the plan is the Tolowa interpretive passage, an interpretive path. It's also the California Coastal Trail, but along it are going to be many stories about the Tolowa people that you can traverse, and it'll begin right here, right off to the side here, and you'll be able to come through this direction. This Stuart Thompson from Fletcher Farr Architects is going to talk through the building in a second, but I want to right now just focus on the outside of the building, and then we'll turn it over to Stuart. But this is the entry plaza. You'll come in here, and the landscape then, this is the corner of the pool building. So if you orient yourself, that's the cultural center to the pool. This space becomes the Tolowa Garden, where we're going to focus on the plants, the people, the culture of the Tolowa. We'll have plantings. Maybe there'll be a grouping of plants that the Tolowa people have used for ceremonial purposes. Maybe another grouping plants that are important food elements, and then maybe another grouping that are medicinal plants. So we'll be able to tell a whole story. And we have the cultural committee that the city has put together. The Taloa Cultural Committee has been incredibly helpful in giving of our time and their wisdom to know what kinds of things might work in this area. There's a center gathering circle, so it can be used by all people for events or gatherings or small groups. It's also a place of reflection. There could be maybe a fire pit or something in the middle seasonally. And then, it'd be a beautiful place with kind of strolling gardens connected to the new Taloa Interpretive Trail. Okay, we can go to the next slide. So that's a little bit of vision, but you need to know a little bit about the context of this building and some of the challenges that it currently has. So Eric, if you kind of give us a little background.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Culture Center was built in the early '70s, and you can kind of see from the looks and feel that it kind of looks that way. But from a city standpoint, it's a great building. The bones are here, but there's a lot of challenges that come with it. And in fact, that's really what's driving this whole conversation today, is how do we maximize these opportunities? And we were sitting at an economic development meeting, and I happened to be sitting with Aaron Gates with Redwood National Park. And we were talking about some of these things and how do we partner? How do we try to really take advantage? And this was at the same point in time that Mike was talking to me, because he was on board and he was in charge of designing this park. And Mike and Paul, they kept pointing to this building. Well, what about this? What about this building that's right here? And I told them, you guys, it's not in the grant. We're sorry, right? But the grant was to build these other things. And so we kept coming back to this, that we have to do something. It's too central of a building not to do something with it. And that's where this partnership began. And that's where the state national parks, the city, the Redwood Park Conservancy, and that's what's actually funded this phase. So this is a feasibility study to see what else we can do with this building. Currently, right now, this building, the city loses about $80,000 on this building. So it costs the city about $80,000 a year just to operate this facility. There are several events that occur in this facility throughout the year. A lot of them are private weddings. There are some community events as well. But in the end, at the end of the day, when the council adopts the budget, there's $80,000 that comes out of the general fund that isn't offset by any revenue. That's on a normal year. The other thing you'll see, this building was built in the 1970s. It's now 2023. So you're talking about a 50-year-old building. It has natural redwood siding on. We're looking at, on the council, we'll see a presentation here in about a month for our budget. We're going to be asking for about $60,000 just to stain one side of the building. This building is 30, 40 feet tall. It's really hard to get to, takes a lot of materials. So those are the types of upkeep things that right now is all on the city and the city residents to have this facility in its current shape. It sits vacant the vast majority of the year. The one piece that does get a ton of visitors, and they do a great job, is our Chamber of Commerce and the Visitor Center, located upstairs. They have a great staff. They service thousands of visitors every year and show them the different places in our area, where to go, where to eat, all of those great things. But that's hard to get to. You can kind of see from this picture, and you'll see Michael talk about it here in a second. It's hard to even find that building. And then if you happen to be disabled, there's a route to get in, but it is certainly not intuitive. And like Mike was saying, we had one person that wandered into the meeting, wondering how to get to the Redwoods. We had another person that was trying to get to this meeting, and he ended up at the visitor center upstairs, right? And he goes find him and bring him down. So those are some of the challenges that the city faces, right?
Great. You can go to the next slide. So this is where's the building? There is a visitor center here, right? That's what it looks like from the street. And really all you have is a bit of an imposing staircase, and with the hint that there's a building back behind. So that has just got us to thinking, what could we do to this building to make it more accessible from the outside, more visually attractive, serve a little bit more as a landmark or a beacon to draw people in. And then especially, what do we do with the inside? How could this not be mostly vacant? How could it be a hub of activity with people coming and going in and out and really utilizing this public resource more efficiently? So with that, Stuart Thompson, can you hear us? And we're going to pass it on over to Stuart, who's our architect from FFA, who's come up with some brilliant ideas for the building. So, Stuart.
I can hear you, Mike. I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can everyone hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
How are we doing? Ashley,
Okay.
can you?
Everybody can hear me?
We're good.
Okay. So maybe we go on to the next slide.
Oh,
I apologize on this.
yeah, I think one of the things we just I kind of highlighted and just wanted to reinforce is we're talking about how do you turn this into an economic engine for the region. And so activity is good, but if we can get people to stay here, hotel, buy a dinner, those kinds of things, and use this building as a way of promoting that'd be great.
And really, Mike, as we sort of talked about, another term that was used, and it was actually by our city attorney, who's born and raised here a long time, with the park projects that are going, with all those improvements, with the opportunity to make the changes here, this can be transformative for this community, you know, and really accentuate not only this building, the tall interpretive trail, the transit hub across the street, have it be a destination, and then have it be that center. And I think that transformation really just sort of stuck with me. That's the opportunity we have.
Yeah. Great. Next slide. All right, Stuart, take it away.
All right, thanks, Mike. Thanks, Eric. So one of the big challenges here is, you know, we get rid of the mound and the trees that are in the front, but we still need to, you know, make this an attractor. We want it to be the first place that people come to find out what they could do within the region, within the county, within the parks, within the city. And so, you know, we need to change it and make it more welcoming. Right now with the mound, there is some concrete walls behind that mound that support it, that you actually go up to the second floor now. We're thinking about eliminating the mound, and that will allow us to infill what is now the drive-through, which I think was a drop-off area originally. People thinking that, you know, in inclement weather, it was a great place to get in and out of your car, but it doesn't really facilitate the use that we see as a discovery center. It would be better used perhaps to bring some retail area in that space that could be seen from both the east and the north, and that's what you see in the darker area there in the center of the drawing here, the sketch. We're thinking that that's the edge of the building now, where the berm leads, would be where that glass is indicated. Now we're going to have concrete walls on both sides of this, and the thought is that we can take advantage of those and also create a longer horizontal element that helps tie the building into the landscape better. And so the sign wall extension there that you see to the left, Del Norte Discovery Center, you know, that would be a concrete wall with some very large letters being suggested here. I actually think that it should have some kind of artistic quality to it. In the end, maybe something that's activated by light or wind would be a possibility. But that dark area in the center, that's where you would enter now, and it is undercover, so there's a porch area there. There's also a possibility of creating a kind of a signature beam and column element that you see there just to the left of the Dell and in the signage. But the other side of the entry, there's a blank wall. It's an existing concrete wall, and there's been some thought about there being a kiosk or some area where people after hours could come and find out about what they could do when the center's closed. That might be a good opportunity for that kind of activity. It's undercover. People could linger there a little bit, and take some time to see what they might be able to do without having the assistance of the open center to do that. Now, one of the other things that's really significant here is we've reworked the elevator tower, if you can call it that. It has a big vent on it facing north. We think we can rearrange that a bit, and we put an extension on it and actually increase the height of it, but made it face the north rather than right now. It kind of faces the south, and that's a great place to put the Del Norte County visit insignia and really kind of anchor this in the county and the region, so people know what the building's about. As part of the idea here is, Mike's already explained how we're trying to bring people in from the main highway. I think this is kind of the culmination of bringing them in to get them here so they can find out what they can do in the rest of the region, what activities they might have in the city and the county and the parks. So this is the north side facing the transit center also. So this would be also where people are coming and going in and out of the building. You see in the existing building, there was a porch or maybe a terrace. When you walked up the stairs originally to go in, it's now the Chamber of Commerce at that level. And they have their retail up above the street on that same balcony level or terrace level. We're thinking about keeping the terrace, and it would just be an outdoor space that would kind of buffer people. It's also somewhat of a welcoming element, but we would change the rail and the kind of the feel of it. I think that'd be one place where we might want to introduce some new materials other than the redwood that is the rest of the building that help feature that front entrance and where to go. So maybe the next slide would be good.
So we're just pausing just real quick, just to make sure that we get everything. Sometimes when we have a project like this, we have talked about it so many times that I want to make sure that it was articulated. So part of this partnership is with the State National Park, Redwood Parks Conservancy.
Yeah.
And it's only maximizing the utilization of this building, but it's also a consolidation of existing visitor centers. And so that way it is that draw that would be here. So that's where this is at Del Norte Discovery Center. So what we're envisioning is a joint visitor center here, not having one across the street and one upstairs. Just looking at some of the statistics, I think I have heard, Mayor Pro Tem Blake Inscore happens to be in the audience, as well as Cindy Bosberg. I believe they have 5,000 visitors somewhere in that range at the visitor center across the street. We get around 1,000 in July, something like that for the numbers. So there's thousands of people, and they might not understand everything there is to understand by going to one or the other. And so to have a joint one, and especially one that's consolidated, where this is that destination. This is that place where you Google and you will find, if you're looking for the Redwood National Park building, you will come here. And then this can then be the center. You will learn all the information. And so when we talk about the Discovery Center, that's that transformation. It's not just what we have in this building. It's a new vision with new partners to really make a united front and an optimization of their visitor experience. Then as they come to here, then they can step right outside. They're at the Tolowa Trail that Mike was talking about. You can go to the beachfront park with the other amenities it has, or be sent to wherever they want to go because they'll have the information no matter what it is. So
Eric, just to piggyback on that, and so things like the graphics, like the California State Park Shield or Seal, National Park Service logo, Chamber of Commerce, all of those could be, Stuart's idea about this, vertical element. Maybe it has multiple agencies just to convey that this is a partnership. This is a one-stop shop, right? You can come here and you get information on everything from where to have dinner to where to spend a week, in the national park.
Sometimes we take it for granted, but people from around the world come here. I mean, it is amazing. When I've been, especially in front of your office, there, just right across the street at K Street, there's people from England, from Austria, right, Switzerland. I mean, it's just, you go there anytime during the day, and there's people from all over the world that just want to see the redwoods and they want to experience our community. And right now, it's a little disjointed on how to get that information. All right, sir, on to the
And this will be the place. So this is the south side terrace, and really the point of the terrace is that we have this great outdoor space that kind of can culminate the experience from the north when you enter. It opens up, as I'll show you in the plans. It opens up to the Elk Creek and the bay beyond. Also, you know, you get the sunsets from here. There's the connection with the Tawa Trail, which is you know, something else that could relate to interpretive elements that are within the main gallery facing the Elk Creek. So there's some possibilities of kind of weaving the interpretive elements into the building. And as Eric was saying, this is replacing a lot of smaller facilities, none of which have really the ability to tell multiple stories. So that one of the advantages here is that we have lots of space that we can dedicate to exhibitry, and it can tell many stories about the natural resources, the cultural resources, the history of Crescent City and the like. It can do all of those things in one place because we have the space. We also have the retail space to support that on the north side there. And that great hall that you were in now, got some thoughts here for you when we get to the interior. But the other thing that you're seeing here on this sketch is that we're wanting to open up the building to the south and to the west a bit more, even to the east a little bit. It's very much a kind of a, if you will, a bookend building with space really orienting north and south, even though the spaces themselves are oriented toward the bookends. So I think it's going to work out really nicely, having this combination of space, this tall vertical space you're in now, and then the horizontal that culminates with this overview of Elk Creek and the bay beyond. Anything anyone else would like to add to that?
No, it's perfect. Yeah, thank you covered it well.
Okay, one of the things I should also touch on is right now there's a solid rail and you can't really get down from the building to the ground. We want to make a connection there. It'll be a ramp and stairs, but also, you know, some kind of transparent railing so you can actually see through the building and see Elk Creek and see the bay beyond. Right now you can't do that because it's a solid rail, but that's one of the other things that trying to illustrate in this sketch. Okay, next. So you know, we have the existing building, and what I wanted to focus on here really is the experience that we want people to have in this building and how we're taking advantage of it spatially, rather than looking at the bones of it. That'll be the next step. We're going to evaluate it, and we'll be able to do a more detailed assessment to know more about what changes we might need to make to the building fabric itself. But to give us a roadmap in terms of what the experience that visitors could have here, and it's not that there's only one, there's many, but we want everyone to have at least some sense of a common experience that hits on all the high points and points out the advantages that we've talked about in terms of all of this visitor information being in one location. So we want to make sure that the visitor entering the building is supported in giving them the information and kind of in a filtered way. But it's not just you know, where do I go? It's also those stories I was talking about that need to be told about the natural resources and the cultural resources, the indigenous people, the city's history, those kinds of things that we can do here. And that's equally as important as them knowing where they need to go, is giving them an appreciation for what might interest them and help them make that decision where they might want to go. If that makes sense, I hope it does.
Let me pause you right here, Stuart, just real quick.
Yeah.
The graphic we're showing is a little bit confusing, at least it was to me. Granted, I know this building fairly well, with some some of the plans. So let me just walk everybody through real quick where the existing lines are, and then you can jump in and really tell them all about the experience. So just to orient you, and we'll start with the back. That's probably the easiest to understand. So this back,
Okay. Go ahead.
that's the back deck. So that's outside. This would be the main auditorium room that we have, sort of the big hall. The stage kind of sits right in here. And then this is the part that's a little bit harder to see. So this is the atrium room that we're in right now. And so there's almost a line. The back wall is right where my cursor's going. So that atrium room as it sits right now. This little pop out here is that sort of the big ceiling that we have. And so this space in here would be if that drive-through was enclosed. And then this is that sign that said Delmar Discovery Center. That's what he's showing right here. So your main entry, like Stuart was saying, I think is going to be right here, right off the parking lot. That would be adjacent. So.
And that's where you would enter. That's the main entrance where everyone would enter. It's an accessible entrance, and it's welcoming to everyone. There could be a vestibule inside even. I'm not showing that at this point, but a place where you could shake off your umbrella or whatever, your shoes, before you enter too. But the thought is that there's kind of this primary circulation path that goes right straight through the building there. And what I'm trying to indicate here is sort of a hierarchy of those experiences based on the width of the red lines. Those are the circulation lines. So the primary experience is coming right through the building. And now the other thing that I want to point out here is the blue lines, and those are the views. Those are the things that you see, right? So those in combination are describing the experience, at least in plan. So we're coming in the north entrance, which is where the one is. You come in, and to the left here, but it would be to your right as you come in, there's an exhibit area that could feature local businesses. It could be a traveling exhibit. It could have information that people could self-help for their visit at. It's a flexible interpretive space, but it's kind of the introductory space to the building. We were thinking when we had it, it doesn't want to be one thing. It could be many things in it. You may want to try a lot of different things at different times of the year, depending on what's happening in the region. We were thinking, there's a possibility even of having local business bring some of their craft or their beer or whatever it may be, and it's a kind of introductory area to welcome to the visitor Discovery Center, and it's right at the entry there. So it's a hospitality gesture as well as it being interpretive. And then you'd pass that, or opposite that, you would see there would be no access, but we would have a display window that you would look into the retail. So you would be able to see, what might be available to you. It's the kind of the lantern that glows at night too, is that retail area out into the entry area there back through the north wall. Yeah. And so you'd walk past that on the main path there. And the next thing that you would see is the information desk. It's the orange number 4 there. Yeah, there's a blue arrow there in the center. And so that's where we would have a shared information desk where there would actually be staff to help visitors with any questions, maybe giving them ideas. Up-to-date weather reports would be available there, or conditions. Sometimes there's wild animals in a park or something that are special people might want to see or may not want to see, say a bear or cougar or something of that sort. But anyway, it's a place where people could get up to the minute information on what's happening outside in the region, with actual people talking over maps, perhaps showing them, different opportunities that they would have in each of these different visitation venues. So you've walked in and you're in that tall vertical space. It's an oh wow moment, and you look up, and what we want to see is where that 16 is. on the right-hand side there, we want to see, a partial model of a redwood tree. They're much larger than the building, but at least enough where you would get a sense for how tall they are, and it takes advantage of the verticality of that space. And then back overhead, there's a model maybe of a condor, full-size condor. So there's these giant elements that are the oh wow in that space. It's also gonna lead you through to a horizontal experience beyond in that gallery. But this is the vertical, which I think is really important here to emphasize how important that the vertical space is in getting you to stop. It's a change. You've come through this low entry area where there's that exhibit area on the right and the retail on the left. Switched here because you're walking down the sheet. I'm describing it as an experience, but then you enter this vertical space and it's light filled. There's a clear story up above that's pouring light in, and you have these big elements that are casting shadows even on the floor, and it's an experience in its own right, but it also is kind of the oh wow moment of arrival. I think it occurs in that space for the visitor. Now, we are showing the blue there on the left-hand side, and that is a largely expanded retail area. Right now, all of the visitor centers have very small retail areas. They're congested. It doesn't really, it's a kind of a set aside. Here, we're trying to integrate that into the area where the information desk is, so that people might see a book that, oh, it's on birds, so I want to go bird watching, so they can better inform their visit and appreciate the resources that are around them. So let's move on to the number 5. There is a point of sale. It's the dark blue square, and it's opposite the information desk, and it is a purely retail point of sale. However, I don't think that would discourage people from answering questions. So it kind of is a spillover information desk too, and high visitation days. Now coming through, there's number 10 there that's opposite or just to the left of the, that's another exhibit area where it's an introductory exhibit area, and it could change out too. And it's so that we have different opportunities for exhibits within the building. And then you would pass through and you would go into the main exhibit gallery, which is the large green space there. And then everything opens up horizontally. So you've gone through this vertical expansion at the information desk, and now you're coming through and you're in the main visitation gallery or exhibit gallery, where we have all these interpretives and are telling all the different stories that mesh together. And at the end, I'm suggesting that there might be a Tawa canoe that relates to Elk Creek and the bay and their story outside on the trail. And the one thing I do want to point out is that there's good connection between the exhibit gallery and that South Terrace too, which is an opportunity space for live events. Could be some music, could be, again, some food samplings, who knows? But it's an outdoor area that could also have interpretive elements integrated into it. Other than that, I think the spaces are primarily for staff. We've got a lot of storage. We've got a lounge, and then we have a meeting room on that the southwest corner, number 12. That's a meeting room for people that are working in the building. It's a place that allows all of these agencies who are being brought together here to mix and exchange ideas on a daily and hourly basis. So that's the first floor, the main floor. It's the primary accessible floor, and everything on it that you see is accessible.
Stuart, could I just interject? What isn't changing, but is really important when you have visitors is where's the restrooms? So restrooms
Yeah.
are right near the entry and they exist right there. So that doesn't change. We're trying to take advantage of that and actually put the front door near the restrooms, which is always a good idea in a visitor center. So.
Yeah. And then also 13, that's the elevator, and it allows for us to make the second floor at least partially accessible. Okay, let's move on to the second floor. So this is the second floor, and this building is split in 4 different levels, which makes it more difficult to work with in terms of accessibility. And so we're trying to right now optimize the benefit versus the cost aspect of providing accessible spaces. This second floor would be accessible in the area at the top there. 9 would be the Redwood Conservancy, and then 8 is the these are the office areas for these different agencies and organizations. And then 8 is the Crescent City Chamber of Commerce, and 7 is that outdoor terrace that you enter through today. But they all overlook and are kind of involved with the vertical space there with the interpretives, and all of that is open. Now, the 15 and 17, which are the mechanical area in 17, and then 15 it's a storage area. We could have 5 people in that area and not have to make it accessible, but at this stage, it's not a primary use space. So on the second floor, we've got the offices for the Conservancy and the Chamber, and then they overlook the exhibits in the atrium central lobby exhibit hall. So let's go to the section here. I think it's the next. So here it is in section, and I think this kind of tells the vertical story. So we're coming in from the left, or the right, sorry. At 18, there's a sign. 1 is the entry again, and then 2 is the bookstore that looks out into onto the entry. You would come in, and 4 is the information desk. 5 is that point of sale. But when you get to where the 5 is, things open up vertically, and there's kind of this explosion of space vertically when you come in. And that's where the redwood tree model and the condor model, the light coming in, there's a real change of environment there. Quality of the environment has changed. And then you would walk beyond, continue walking past the information desk, and that's the 6 is the main, the greenish color is the main exhibit gallery, and then beyond that is the Terrace 7 overlooking Elk Creek. So those are the kind of the, it's opening up both vertically and then horizontally as you move through the building. Those are the points I want to make. And it's also much more transparent on the inside. You're seeing into the exhibit areas, you're seeing into the bookstore, the retail area. It's not quite so closed off. And I think that dead space now, the drive-through, imagine that being filled in and that floor being the same level as the room you're in. That's how you would enter the building now, past that temporary exhibit and in the retail area. And you can see that little terrace on 7 there. That's on the right-hand side on the second floor. That's where you enter today, and that would go away. There'd be a new roof over the new entry, and then the sign wall would go beyond that. So that's a quick run through. I don't know if I over my time or what. I think I might be. Sorry.
No.
Any other questions that people have?
We're gonna get questions in a second.
Okay. Okay.
Provoked a lot of thinking. I'm watching heads nod and people taking notes, and but one of the things to do is, Eric highlighted this idea that this building, which right now is the chamber and the city's responsibility, now becomes a partnership of multiple agencies, state agencies, federal agencies, local and city and local. And so wanted to make sure that the partners that have participated in this have a moment just to give us sort of their thinking. Why does this make sense to the chamber or the park service or state parks or the conservancy? So let's see, Steve, you want to kick this off?
Sure. Yeah, thanks everyone for coming today. My name is Steve Metz, the Superintendent of Redwood National State Park on the National Park Service side. Aaron Gates from the California State Parks and Tom Luther from Redwood Park and Service Committee. So I'll pass it to them in a minute. This has been a concept that I think a lot of folks kind of see as low hanging, kind of like a duh. We had two different visitor centers basically within eye shot of each other across the street, both of which were kind of underperforming at this point. And so in terms of both increasing a one-stop shop for visitors, but also increasing the retail viability of all these visitor centers, combining them together into an existing space, it's very cost effective and will help both chamber and Redwood Park Service helps the parks. But as the park superintendent, that's one piece of the puzzle. The other piece is having one spot where everyone can come and have access, as Eric and others have been saying, to the transit center, to Talo exhibits, to a really world-class accessible exhibit space, which we don't have in either space right now in downtown City. It's really exciting for us, and we're part of this, and we're part of this until hopefully we can see this happen. So we really thank the city for their leadership and bringing us in on this, because this has been a concept that I personally have had for a long time, trying to bring these two visitor centers together. And now I think we finally have a pathway forward with that. With that, I'll pass it to Erin and see if she has anything to say.
Hello, everyone. So yeah, my name is Erin Gates, and I'm the Deputy Superintendent of State Parks in this partnership with Redwood National and State Parks. And I just wanted to bring that up because we actually existed separately for 30 years, right? National Park Service ran its property and State Parks ran our property. And we realized that we were not doing the resources or our visitors service by doing things separately. So we came together in 1994, which is 30 years ago. So it just seems really interesting that here we are about to do this again and all come together. And what we get to do here is service our community and service the millions of visitors that are coming through this town and that maybe aren't adequately benefiting the town as much as they could. And so what we see this really as is an epicenter to the beginning of an experience that is not only going to benefit our community, but it's going to benefit the visitors. We'll have Saul come up here in a second, but just so you all know, we have 5 visitors across Redwood National and State Parks. 4 of them are open all year. 1 of them, a small one in the Jen Smith campground, is seasonal. But the one most underperforming visitor center we have is the one in downtown Crescent City. And in part because there is no visitor center. It is a retail space where people come and get information. When visitors are coming to this premier worldwide destination, that's also a UNESCO World Heritage Site, they want to get information. They don't want to just know where the trails are. They want to know why it matters, right? So they want to have these exhibitry. We currently don't have any visitor center in all of Redwood National and State Parks that really has 21st century exhibitry. So what this space would allow us to do is provide the story and the information. And the last piece I'll bring, which is why I'm working with Cindy and the Chamber of Commerce is so important for us, is as federal or state entities, we are not allowed to provide information about businesses. We are allowed to provide information about trails, and that's it. So if someone says, your campground's full, where can I camp? We can't provide that information because we can't show any bias. So what the Chamber of Commerce would be able to do is provide that piece of information that we can't provide. And so having it all centrally located as a hub. So this is the hub of the wheel, and then it's a spoke of adventure all across the county, and not just within Redwood National and State Parks, but county property, state, city property, going out towards Point St. George or going to the county parks. We need this. And you've seen examples of an interagency visitor center be really effective in other smaller rural areas. I'm thinking of the interagency visitor center in the Eastern Sierras. That is a perfect example of multiple governmental entities coming together to best serve the community. So we're really excited, and I'm gonna bring Saul up because Redwood Parks Conservancy for us, they are a support entity. So whatever they're selling in their gift stores actually helps come back to the parks and let us do projects that we couldn't do otherwise. So having our support entity on board is super important for this. And it's just been really nice to see how this is all coming together. So it's all coming up.
Hi, I'm Sal Munoz. I'm the development director for the Redwood Parks, this one too. And we're really happy to be part of this project because when we offer items to visitors, we help them remember how happy they were when they were taking this trip. And so being together with the city, with the Chamber of Commerce, then it helps them remember the whole experience as one piece instead of trying to bring it together in little moments. So that's really important for us because they get to be happy again. They get to remember how happy they were when they were traveling. So they're happy again. And they're encouraged to do another this. You know, with time, they'll be back again because they have the banana club or they have the book, and they'll remember those things. So we're really in support of the project, and you know, we think it's going to be really beneficial on a long term to the city. So, thank you.
City Bosford. What's in it for you, Cindy? You were already in the building.
I'm already.
Maureen can-
Commerce, and the reason that this is a good thing to be making happen is so varied. There's so many great reasons for it. For me, one of the bottom line reasons is that currently the parks gets about 5 times the number of visitors that we do here. When people walk to the Art Visitor Center, what we do, we're the Chamber of Commerce, we're the Chamber of Business, is we want to, you know, we have the information on the trails and the parks and the beaches and the lighthouse and the tides. But what we really want to do is our goal is to drive them into our county's businesses. We ask them questions like, are you hungry? You know, what kind of food do you like? Where are you staying? What direction are you traveling? And our goal is, if they're coming through, is to convince them by showing them the beautiful area and what we have to offer to get them to stay here another night or two. And that's what we do. In conjunction, if we're with the parks, who are the experts on all of the trails within the park system, both state and national. You know, they can provide that information, and then we can provide and drive those visitors into our businesses, which then increases our TOT, increases the sales tax. It makes our businesses more successful. And we really don't care if they're chamber members. We want to be chamber members. But our goal is to get them to stay here one more day, 2 more nights, eat while they're here, go to Ocean World, go to Truth and Mystery, as well as into the National and State. Thank you.
Thanks, Cindy. So I think at this point, we want to just kind of open it up to questions. We can talk about questions specific to the plans that Stuart had, or if you can pull up the slide, Eric. I think our first question is just, you know, what general questions do you have? We're going to get into kind of what your opinions are and all that in a second, but what doesn't make sense, or what are you confused about? How can we clarify the idea? Yeah.
Well, I don't know if I can speak in general, but there are so many unanswered questions about financing, visibility of the building, and I'll just start by starting from the beginning. Let me understand what's going on here now. This is a 50-year-old, basically out of touch building that's losing $80,000 a year. We want to consolidate the efforts to redo this building, make it more visible. Perhaps from the south, you can see the building coming in, maybe an interesting color scheme for this existing building. I don't know if you're looking to do any outside structural work. It doesn't sound like that's the case, but inside, will be new tenants. Obviously, Chamber of Commerce is still here. Redwood Parks, State Parks, the Conservancy is now going to be in this building. So my question comes to who pays for this? There's no grant money here. Financeability of this. And is there an opportunity to explore those issues now and the time frame of which to do this? And also, secondly, is what happens to Second Street? What is that? Is that, am I understanding that's going to be a transit center? I'm hearing things and trying to put things together in context. So please, kind of anybody jump in and give me.
Let me go back to the sort of overall slide. But first, why are we here? What is this? Because we kind of did just jump into it. And this is the feasibility study to see if this was a viable project or not. We knew we had the needs from the city side with the building, its use, its function. Talking to Aaron, Steve, and Sal, there was a need on their side for more exposure, for more retail place to combine some of the operations. And then with the Chamber of Commerce as well, there's a reason that the national park gets 5,000 visitors or 5 times the amount of visitors that they do. And part of it is they're hidden up there and it's hard to get to. And so there's needs on that side as well. So if we can bring everyone together, it's just sort of the idea. That's really what this is about. So this is the very first step in that. Is it feasible? And the part of the feasibility is the partnership. And that's, I give so much credit to the Redwood Parks Conservancy, the state national parks. When we talked about this, they said, this isn't just going to be a city study. We want to be partners in this. And so we split the cost of this first feasibility study in working together. Now we're coming to the conclusion of that feasibility study, looking at how the building would actually need to function to accommodate these needs, if it even could function, was the first question. And I think the answer to that we're seeing is yes, it can, and it can function in a pretty powerful way to try to meet the needs of these various agencies. The next question is, what's the community's thoughts on it, which is really what this meeting is about, because this is our first time really going over it. We're trying to move quickly because, like you said, there is some opportunities right now for grant funding. One of which, and I'll let me hit my screen share so people on YouTube will be able to see the map as well. One of the opportunities is coming right around the corner, and Director Yeager, who is sitting here in the audience as well, myself, Bridget Lacey, actually is the main team, as well as the Redwood Coast Transit. There's a Clean California grant that we will be applying for at the end of this month. I think it's April 28th. We're working hard on that. We've had some great meetings with Caltrans, thanks to Senator McGuire and his connection there and his support of that. And that will be looking at this piece that Mike was sort of talking about. It's going to be looking at that S-curve area. And here we'll dive into it real quick so you get a better view of it. So it'll be looking at this area right down here. And so we have the mound, we have this entry into the city, we have the sign Mike was talking about. We'll be applying for grant funding for all of that. We'll also be applying for grant funding for the first part of this transit center. We will be looking to pick off this parking piece. And so that's all part of the front street plan. It's all part of making this a reality. It's also looking at the front side of this building and removing the barriers. We have an opportunity to do that right now. And so that would be a piece. The other piece of it is going to be to try to find funding, whether it be from a partnership type funding with the city, state national parks, Redwood Parks Conservancy, Chamber, to move forward with this piece of it. Because what's making us competitive for Front Street right now is the fact that we're pretty much shovel ready. And so we can say that we will get this done quickly. If this feasibility study is determined to be what we want as a community, what we need as a community, then we need to be able to take that next step to really get us in line for some of these funding opportunities, which would be to be construction ready with plans and specs. Mike,
well, I just say that, and the next step after today, in terms of the feasibility study going forward, is doing a really in-depth analysis of the building structure, mechanical systems, all of those kinds of things. So the first was, do we have the partnerships and a use and square footage that could accommodate that? And then the next one is, let's call it just the physical plant and its ability to sorry, go ahead, Stuart.
It's an assessment. We want to assess the service life that's left in, the mechanical systems, plumbing systems, that kind of thing, as well as look at the building structure itself and see how it complies with code, given that, we may be asking for a change of occupancy here.
Yeah, it's a 50-year-old building. The rules have changed, right, for public facilities. So all of that's kind of the next step forward.
That would be the next step. That part is currently not funded, so it's not included in what we currently have under contract. So that would be that next step for us, is to move forward on that phase, try to find funding, figure out where that money comes from to take that next step.
Exactly. Yeah, so, and I think it's important that, I don't want to miss over this point, that we, both the parks and Redwood Park Conservancy and the city have both kind of chipped in to make this initial investment to get us kind of shovel ready and ready to put in for larger grants, right? So we don't have the money to do this right now, but you can't get the money until you make a small investment like we have here. And we're sharing that. We're all saying, we're all holding hands together. We're sharing that investment to do this initial planning, which will then get us money to do the things we want to do. So somebody had to just kind of step forward and do that. And that's kind of it's kind of a proud moment for the parks, the city to work together hand in hand like this with the chamber and Redwood Park Conservancy. This is the first time in my time that I see that.
I can't articulate my appreciation and what else I'm going to appreciate is it's an exciting moment, and it's one that when Mike first brought it up, I didn't think we would have an answer for this building. The building was the building, right? It is there. Granted, I agree, it didn't make much sense in context with the park, but now you start to frame it in this reference, and now you start to talk about the $8 million that we have secured, this partnership that's creating a feasibility study. If we're able to pick up this $3 million, which there's an opportunity there, now all of a sudden that starts to leverage things. And now that next grant application, it's not just us wanting their money and their money standing alone. It's all of these other pieces that now make this critical piece, given the demographics of our community, the opportunities that are here, we will be pretty competitive for these grants when we go after them. We just need to find the right one to target this problem.
Other questions? Nina.
I have a question on functionality. When we've done events here in the past for the large movement, we've had large items or small items, limits can be very heavy. Where are you proposing that would be hard to unload? Sometimes to be a step piece or other things. So right now we park here. Where's the route?
So we have a couple of areas. One is we're greatly opening up the front. So you'll be able to come to be, after hours, bring some things directly from the street right into the front of the building. But we also have a service area over this side that would come off of play, and there would be that'd be the kind of the back of house.
Kitchen.
Yeah, that's where food would come in. Yeah. And we haven't gotten far enough to think through what's the kitchen, right? We had to look at occupancy, what level of kitchen, maybe it's just catering kitchen, but we definitely felt there needs to be access for food, exhibitry, all kinds of things.
My name's Tom Howell. I'm here with my two sons who moved out here from Minnesota. I'm thinking about moving here. I'm a business broker. But what's the traffic count that goes on 101 here?
Do you have numbers on the daily traffic volume?
Let me, well, I don't have time to
I have a report for Seattle Lane,
the one of the Zoom is like a Dutch meeting, but one of the park service notes coming up 2 million visitors just to the Redwood National Parks. And on Howland Hill Road alone, Ralph Road to Redwood Titans, 600,000 vehicles
On the gravel road.
That's the transportation of a concept. And you're getting 2 million visitors to the park, but we're only getting 5,000 visitors.
So hence the need to grab attention on Highway 101, north and southbound, and get people to divert coming in.
My acknowledging what you're doing, I think this is a diamond in the rough.
Ah,
And I've been coming here for a couple of years now, and I'm like, what's going on? Where this is, why aren't this people, you know, why isn't this business community exploding?
yeah,
I can see it happening.
From a number,
Congratulations.
Well,
Ollie.
visitor center numbers, I just thought this would be nice to kind of put into context is that on average in the summer at our two busiest visitor centers, which are currently down in the south end of the park. So Prairie Creek Visitor Center right in the middle of the park, and then Keekle Visitor Center, which is right on the side of 101. Those visitor centers are seeing on average in the middle of the summer at least 1,000 visitors a day. So we're talking 30,000 visitor centers a month. Right, and imagine how that would benefit this community if those visitors were coming here,
Yeah.
right? And that's what we really want the community is benefiting. There's millions of people coming through here and they're coming to our parks. You know, we're actually in the process of doing a visitor, so when you think of a park like Yosemite, and it has one entrance and one exit. So it's easy to count. We have a park that has porous boundaries, so we have no way of really determining, we don't have a, you know, a kiosk.
Yeah.
Right, but what we're doing is we're actually doing a large visitor study right now to really get a better concept of how many people are really coming here. And I think it's going to exceed our estimate by a lot more than, you know, we're estimating, what did we normally say, somewhere between 600,000 to 800,000 visitors a year is our general estimate. But once we get a really firm count, I think we're going to see that the visitation here is actually way more than what we know it to be.
And, you know, to add to that, the thing about having a discovery center, a fashion destination, is that when people walk in, because we don't have any, you know, even like Crater Lake has, you know, a place to stop and get information and pay to ride and become. We don't have any of that here. So people want a destination, and for them to come here and walk in and see the redwood tree and see the condor and to get the information, but actually also have a discovery center where there are multiple stories, the history of the area, and you know, the natural wonders of the area, and what they can explore, what they can touch, will enhance their experiences. For us to be able to touch that many more people as the local chamber of commerce will greatly enhance their visit too, and get them to come back to bring their family and friends. And the transportation hub is critical. Right now, we've got all of those vehicles going up, you know, what to me is the gem of the parks, which is Howland Hill. And being able to drive through it. And you have people, some people that have different types of physical abilities that can either get out and hike, but they don't have to. They can drive through and stop, still see the redwood trees. But to be able to get those folks in and out in a manner that they're not intruding on each other's space is also a great opportunity for enhanced business for our local tour operators to be able to pick them up and drop them, for them to be able to buy tickets through the kiosk right here in the discovery center and, you know, decide, you know, which tours they want to take. But all of that becomes possible with the transportation hub right across the street. Besides which, not only for the visitors, but for our locals. We have so many people that are using the current transportation hub, which is out on the street and in the rain and, you know, in the elements, that this will improve the transportation within our community, especially for the citizens that are currently using it.
Are we coming out?
Which that's exactly right, right. So they come to us and they have to climb these stairs to get a bus schedule or to find out, you know, what the routes are and whatnot. We do that as a courtesy upstairs. And I see how difficult it is for them. You know, we'll have somebody that's taken, gotten a ride from just last week. The gentleman came, was dropped off. He was taken out to the Arcata Airport. And he was dropped off here and he was trying to get to the Medford Airport. And he ended up walking with the rainstorms walking here, I have to never they make that network. So they have, because the application have the plans, we could actually be manned, so we'll be somebody there to help these travelers that are trying to get somewhere.
Is Stuart still on?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, there he is.
Question, is there a restaurant component attached to this vision here?
Sorry, I'm having trouble hearing.
So is there a restaurant component as part of the program that we've developed thus far?
There is no restaurant or food service per se in the current program. I think there's opportunities for periodic, food carts, that type of thing, especially on the South Terrace in good weather in the summer. But we haven't really gone very far in that direction. There's going to be more of an emphasis on, rather than it being as it has been in the past, an event venue, really taking advantage of those spaces to bring in some fantastic interpretives and tell multiple stories, rather than it being, trying to be all things to all people. There's lots of food venues that are in the city, and some very close by.
Yeah, I was just thinking during the conversation, somebody was asking about the kitchen. Is there a kitchen back there currently? So something like a way that you could bring some more economic opportunity into this building is turning that into commercial kitchen space. Like for instance, people doing small scale agriculture wanting to do value added products. If you had a commercial kitchen here that the people in the community could actually rent out for their small business and certifiably process their food products, so you could sell them here, maybe in the retail store or in the co-ops and stuff, that they could rent that space, and that gives these opportunity in there.
Is there any outdoor amphitheater in this area?
Yeah, there will be. So that's a big part of the park plan, is an amphitheater for major outdoor events, particularly, late spring and early fall and certainly the summer. And in part of that, as Stuart mentioned, food carts, we've got an area where for a big event, you might bring in 2, 3, 4, 5 food carts. And some of the events that happen, like Sea Cruise, every year, you get thousands of people coming to town. So the outdoors would be a very popular thing, as well as like farmers markets and other kinds of things that will happen in the park.
What about parking for big events?
Yeah, we've got a lot of parking in the master plan. We've expanded parking a fair amount. New parking on Stamps Way, annual parking, providing, and there are a lot of parking spaces currently just along Powell Drive, along the water. New parking on the other side of the pool. So and as well as what these improvements that have been making in Front Street. So there'll be a lot more parking right out in front, which doesn't exist right now.
These next 3 blocks of Front Street, actually, we should receive bids April 28th. And that will be for the next 3 blocks of Front Street. So hopefully this summer, this summer, there will be construction on Front Street between G and our goal is to get through Play Street. So the next 3 blocks, that would only leave 2 blocks left, which is what we've applied for this other grant that the state is offering right now to try to complete that. Create more pedestrian areas, multiple parking, reduce the vehicular lanes down to only 2, and then create this little meander right here at H Street. So it kind of breaks it up a little bit and brings people focus into the park. And then as they come in, they'll have that sense of interest. Another little piece to it that's happening.
We have a lot of questions, but I think the most important one is just getting a sense of what do you support this idea of sort of a transformation from a cultural center that is really, a city resource to something broader, to a discovery center, this idea of hub and spokes and more activity. Is it one one gentleman's weighed in, but that's one of the reasons we want to have this meeting today is just hear from you. Are there things that are missing, questions that you have, those kinds of things. So what do you think? Is it a good idea to move forward on? I see some thumbs. Any words you'd like?
I came here afterwards.
Yeah.
Where I moved, I no clue. I never came into this building, even though I'm one of those people, I love to explore and find everything I can, and I go to every event, this was just confusing, I never had to think of it.
Yeah, same.
And when you do walk.
Same.
So I think this is so needed and would be so, I do know there are some big events that happen, and I still think there's gonna be plenty of space for those that also be accommodated on some of those things, so I think the plan is that's great and imperative.
Thank you.
And like one of the things that you were talking about, because we've talked about some of what events do occur here.
Yeah.
And we have several private weddings that occur in which the building's closed to the public, right? And they just have their private event. And that occurs several times through the year. But there's also other events like the Crystal Ball District, which is a fundraiser for CASA.
Yeah.
You want to talk a little bit about, in that sense, what are the dual things that can occur? So you're not trying to be everything to all people, in which then you're really nothing to anybody and everybody's unhappy.
Right.
Don't be right.
Yeah. Well, this is a lot of square footage in this space, right? And as Eric mentioned, it's not utilized a lot. So but here's what we've learned is we're talking to Steve about the idea that many museums, interpretive centers, places where there are interesting objects suddenly become a destination for events. People want to have an evening fundraiser, and they want to do it. Well, you mentioned National Air and Space Museum, but the idea that it's in a unique place, right, with interesting things, and you can network with people while you're talking about a Talama basket that's being displayed, or talking about the condor. And so this, I think that a whole new generation of events could happen here that right now, it's kind of okay, but it's not very dynamic and exciting. But with a transformation of particularly the interior and a new entry, I think this becomes a really popular destination and probably some new events that haven't even been thought of. People say, gosh, we could do that there, the interpretive center. Yeah.
Will they be able to use the larger area to be with its own the way we have there? Because there aren't too many places that have a large event, like you're gonna go to Lucky Seven or Alabama Casino.
Right.
And it's a nice central one. Can we still use it for CASA? Can we still use it for Chamber of Commerce dinners and missions? Will we be able to do?
Yeah, I think it would. I think it will change the kinds of events that you could do, because there will be exhibitry and objects and touch screens, and I mean we don't know what, but there will be interpretive exhibits telling stories in here. So for some kinds of things, but if you were trying to lay out the maximum number of tables in a space, probably couldn't do that. But the question that I think we'd like to turn it around to the community and say, what type of facilities do you need? We've heard about the new at the high school, the new Performing Arts Center, right? Well, I'm sorry. Performing Arts Partnership. Well, that's what I've heard is that's a great facility, right? And it's a new facility, so maybe there's opportunity to host kinds, performances in that building in addition to high school elements. So we'd like to know, and I think the city manager would like to know, what are the types of venues that are needed that aren't available elsewhere in the region, so.
And I do believe that the fairgrounds need to utilize the building. I think we can't have a possible here. We do have an area at the fairgrounds, the main building there that we've had successful dinners and chamber dinners and economic summits and equals dances in. So the building I don't think is interesting as this.
There's other ones too, like the Masonic Lodge, it's fairly new, and so that can be rented out. Again, it's not this building, but it could function as that Elks building is another one that people use sometimes. And sometimes people actually prefer to go there over here because of the acoustics, the way it sort of lays out. I mean, so a lot of times, even if this is open, they're utilizing those buildings anyway.
Suggest that when you look at this, maybe the feasibility study that you utilize or talk to the nonprofit, CASA, DENACA, other groups that use it and see where else might go. So at least you have, we have a heads up, like, okay, maybe it's not gonna be here where else we can go. So it's just, I'm looking at the larger venues and the, it is pretty in here, and the acoustics are challenging, but not bad. Fairgrounds are not good for these. So,
That's great. That's a great point, great feedback, and yeah, it does give us some things to be as we move ahead, sort of, because we're trying to meet the needs of the community, right? So, and once you change anything, then something that was here, you want that to continue and be even more successful in some other way. So, great.
Looks like we have,
Terry.
so, I worked on trying to help about this in like over 500 countries. And I'm not trying to say, what I'm getting at is this particular building with the amount of phones this has. I don't think, about half and half new construction with readers. This is by far the best one that I have seen as far as this airplanes. The other thing I would say is I don't know how many of us have seen any of these TV shows on fixing up the place. Like what is
This, yeah.
fixing up love house hunters. There's 23 of them like going on. Every single one of them, you know what they do? They take the bones of the house, they open it up, and it becomes tremendous. Look at any of those shows, all the stuff there. Same thing we have. And I think if Stuart probably, he would probably tell us that we're maybe what 5% on concepts and where we need to be right now. So can we use this for other things? Probably. The other thing that really excites me about this is the location. And right now, the location, you come in and it's an inward orientation. And like you were saying, you don't get anything over in this direction. The other thing that you don't get is that direction. And that's where it really counts. The ocean, right? The harbor.
Yeah.
And if you took some of this open it up, or if you took the shed roof on the bottom, it's right now it's suppressing the space. If you open that up, you get this big view from here. That's I mean, you guys have I like what the person from Minnesota said. This is the diamond development.
Yeah.
Don't let this go because of some little thing. But I'll keep that for the call.
You close on a high note there.
No, this is all high. It's stored on your first drawing that you showed us, that elevation of the north face. There it is, right there.
There we go.
So what is that? Is that an elevator stack or is that? Yeah. Okay, this is, I have to tell you this thought came online. If you made that into an elevator stack and you had a viewpoint that you would over trees, and you can see 300 a staging area. Imagine people going up there and go, oh, if I go this way, I go to the Redwoods. If I go that way, I go, to this way. If I go this way, and there's the town right there. and I can, go to the restaurant, and go to eat. That is such an exciting idea to me in the way.
So, yeah,
Oh,
I'm sorry, go ahead, Aaron.
As a concept of that idea, Terry, that's already at the Channel Islands National Park Business Facility, where they have a viewing deck at the top with a kind of orientation station to wrap stairway around an elevator and then have a viewing deck up there. It just connects the whole, it reminds everybody that this is a whole community.
yeah, if you want a staging area or 70 spot.
Yeah.
Like what a spot to do.
Yeah, because you can see the redwoods, right? You can see the headlands, you can see the crescent beach, you can see the lighthouse and, yeah.
Yeah, you can see two lighthouses.
Yeah, two lighthouses.
Probably see Smith River coming.
Yeah.
Coming in. You can-
Yeah.
it'd be really-
Great. It's a great idea. You got that, Stuart?
I got bits and pieces of it. I'm having a little trouble hearing, but I think I got some of it. Yeah.
Yeah, the idea of a lookout up either at the top of the elevator stack or top of the roof or something. Because that was an element we were trying to figure out how to get into the park, and the logistics are very complex if you're going to make it accessible. And here we've got a building that's got an elevator that could maybe play a little.
Get you to a set.
Yeah.
Also look at interpretation.
Right.
Like the side,
Right.
look out on this.
Yep.
Yeah, you could have like a little patio, like a walkout right at the top.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like very
That's
much,
what
I like very much the idea of it opening up to the west also.
Yeah.
For all the reasons that you stated, I think they're all, brilliant observations. And really, some of the more scenic elements that you can see from the site.
The other thing is. The other thing, Stuart, if you open up these, the shed on the other side, and you get a look at the sky.
Yeah.
And the storms coming in, unopposed by anything else coming in from the west. I mean, the whole thing is, this is, I hate to keep on repeating what my friend from Minnesota said. This is definitely.
The other thing, we're gonna have to look at it, but if you're up this tall, that's probably what, at least 35, 40 feet, maybe
35
something like
feet.
that.
Yeah.
35, you get it up to about 40 or so for the platform.
Yeah.
Great place to go in case there was a tsunami possibly.
All you need to do is get 2,000 people up there. We're a little over time, but
So real quick, I know Blake Hayes from King's with us today, been part of this project for a long time. Blake, I saw you saw the wheels were turning there a little bit. Certainly want to get your perspective.
I would just offer this, all respects to all the events that have taken the last 51 years. Mr. Weir's parents were the first people to be married in this building. Events like the crystal ball and events that preceded that, all of those things. And I think we should celebrate those things, but sometimes you come to a point in time where you celebrate the past, you acknowledge the present, and you have to capture a vision for the future. There are lots of places to hold events in Delaware County. There are also some amazing destination points in Delaware County. I was at one this morning with visitors from Japan as we walked into Grove of Tigers. What there isn't is a building that is a destination point that puts us on the map, not only for visitors from California, not only for visitors from the United States, but for visitors around the world. If we truly capture the vision that I believe that this building can be, it will put us on the map that visitors from around the world will come here to do just what I did with visitors from Japan this morning, walk into the Grove of Tigers. Sea Scout Grove, do Boy Scout Trail, do all the things. The only building we have that's that iconic right now, well, we have two. One of them is very hard to access, it's 6 miles off the coast. It is battery light. We have a structure that is iconic that people know. This building can be so much more iconic and have a return on investment that is beyond anything any of us can possibly imagine now. Of the millions of people who already drive 101 every year, now we're going to be bringing millions more purposely because we have consolidated and we have done something that is beyond what anybody would have dreamed when this building was constructed 50 years ago. Celebrate past, acknowledge where we are, and then start building for the future. The people who come after us deserve that we maximize this moment in time. So that's just my pitch. But I really believe we have.
That's funny.
Just a thought I found is, working as a community together, we rely very, strongly on, motels referring people to eat and down, so on for direction. And, I worked in tourism-based business for a long time in town. But making it easier for, the visitors to have one central place, because, even though it's very profitable day, if people are making 2 stops and there's one stop, and the more that they're running around trying to find all these centers and information, you're taking time away from them being in the local businesses and eating at the restaurants, and getting a cup of coffee here, having an extra 5 minutes to pop into this little boutique or store here. And so it's, adding more, it's cutting down the time for them to spend more and be more in our community.
Thanks.
To use the transformative phrase, again, we're struggling with the air. All of a sudden, we come in, the nation expands the point. It all builds us. We have people flying into the airport, and the airport's not struggling to keep alive. We're struggling to keep the downtown alive. We've got Front Street project going on, we've got park going on, we have this. It's building blocks to a point, and everything else we're trying to accomplish becomes easier and feasible. And benefiting the whole.
And I just add that too, because I don't know all the events to go on. I know there's a lot of weddings, and I do know that maybe there's other buildings in town and those could happen. I've been in one. So we can take the revenue that generates, which is on a smaller scale, with move that to those buildings. We're going to build naturally buildings by putting other things. So we're bettering this. We're bettering all of our other resources, and it's nothing but improvement. So I think that we're not going to lose, and we're going to add some other things too. And so, as those events grow, those places get better. So I love what you're saying, looking for the future, we're spreading resources and improving the entire community. So it's not, we're not losing anything, we're just moving it somewhere else.
Well, thank you for taking time. Some of you have been here all day and really appreciate your participation. We want to make sure that everybody's here, that everybody's signed in. So this is a logistic thing. If you haven't been signed in, come in, please do on your way out. Eric, you want to talk about next steps? And
well, next steps on this particular project is taking these comments, right, sort of packaging up this feasibility study. I'll follow up with a state, national, Rebel Parks Conservancy, Chamber. Then we have this feasibility report. From that, we'll be working with the partners, seeing what grants are available. How do we take that next step? But that's really going to be that next piece. We will take it back to the city council as well, and so it'll be another public meeting there where they will give their comments and learn what Mayor Pro Tem did. Hopefully adopt that and then give us direction to go and try to make this happen. But it's going to take that community support. It's going to take that community push. As we saw with the park, starts with a vision, starts with a feasibility study, right? And next year, those things will be built in the park. I have no doubt that we keep this up and keep this focused, this will transform, and this whole area will be transformed in the park. So
Thank you all for coming. Thank you, Stuart. Appreciate very much your hard work and your great ideas. And have a good day.